So for the second piece of filming with Cameron, we're going to take a little mat work series, not too long, but it does have some development from fairly simple exercises into a couple of original mat work series. So you'll see how we use the foundations and the groundwork of the basic exercises to give us the technique and the strength to tackle more challenging whole body exercises. So it's nice for me today, again, to have Cameron to demonstrate, and he did say to me, he said, did you plan this with me in mind? And I did think that was a good idea, do two things at once. So I'm providing you guys with your practice, but hopefully also doing Cameron a bit of good as well. So Cameron's going to go onto the mat, and today he's going to work with his feet up on a chair. In a Pilates studio, you have the reformer apparatus, and we want to use the sort of edge of the chair a little bit as if the ball of your foot was on the reformer bar. So you're using a part of your foot to rest on the chair that does actually have some weight bearing and sort of push off. So you're not putting the chair under the middle part of your foot. That's it. That would not be very, so wouldn't relate so well to how you use your feet. So I do have to remind Cameron not to sort of crunch his toes. So we're in our semi-supine, and remember that you do need to just come into the body and allow the body to come into the space and onto the mat, so that you know where you are before you begin to move away from that place. So we've got a nice long spine, long neck, relaxed jaw, releasing and opening the shoulder girdle. So the spine, you're not trying to press your back into the floor, but what you will find is that when the legs are raised, your lower back will probably drop more naturally to make a little more connection with the mat. And that's one of the reasons why working in this position is quite helpful if your lower back is a bit stiff. Now, I would probably use a taller chair for Cameron because he's quite tall, so I would put him a bit higher, but I think you can get the gist of it from here. So first of all, just a little bit of breathing and static abdominals. So it's always good to take a couple of breaths just to make sure you're not holding those sort of breathing mechanisms too tight. And then once you've got your breath, we're going to breathe in through the nose. And as you exhale through the mouth, we're going to find that deep corset layer of muscle that surrounds the abdominal organs. And we're not going to move the spine or the hips yet. We are literally just feeling a little bit how you stick a stamp on an envelope. How can you really feel that kind of adhesion of your abdominals towards that internal space? So it is more of a corset feeling. It isn't really just your navel. That's rather too small a place to focus, but it is that corset feeling of drawing your deep abdominals in. And certainly, even if you feel you can't scoop your abdominals, there will be a tensing and a flattening of your tummy. These muscles do help to give you more tone and better silhouette around your abdominal area. Cameron is now going to go into a simple pelvic tilt, and on the out-breath he's engaging his deep abdominals and he's using his lower abdominals to roll the spine out of the mat. But the feeling he's got too is that the base of his knee or the top of his shin is moving in a trajectory up to the ceiling. So although he's pressing a little bit into the chair just for stability, he's not really trying to use his legs or his glutes. It's his abdominals. So I'm going to get Cameron to slightly slower and just to relax the rib cage a little more, so that as you move through into the thoracic part of the movement, so a little bit softer here. So you want to feel that your body is in a hammock, so that it has the two ends supported. Little breath at the top, and then rolling back down. So slightly slower, on the out-breath, engaging, so those lower abdominals. But as you do that, soften the lower rib. Now, as you create, it's this bit here I'm going to make him go more slowly because he's very mobile in his lower back. And then he sort of rushes through. and misses a connection. And then he's very capable as he comes to the top of the movement. Cameron's keeping his knee-foot alignment. It's pretty good there, that's nice. Now, when you come down, the feeling is of a weight here. You soften here first. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we forget to soften and to feel that sort of give. And if we hold everything tight, then it's a bit like that inflated balloon. It doesn't actually have as much movement. So these abdominals are very strong, but there is this softness here. So now you can see that's coming, that articulation. So whilst we aren't thinking about articulating every bone in the spine, that's not the thought, there is this rolling, melting, articulating feeling. It's nice. We'll just do one more. So in breath. So using his lower abdominals, pelvis, tailbone curls off the floor. Now don't rush. Pause at each stage. Now a little bit more. Good. Keeping those ribs soft. And being careful that as you get to the top of the tilt, you don't suddenly use the glutes and the legs. It's still your abdominals, it's still your trunk motion. Take a breath, soften from the top, roll down. Well done, Cameron. Bring your knees to your chest. So working the abdominals. So if your pelvic tilts harnessed those lower abdominals to create the motion of the spine from the base and moving up the spine, now we're going to harness the ability of the rib cage to move towards the pelvis. Now you'll see that I've had the brainwave of adding another chair, which I should have done before because Cameron had quite a struggle with his pelvic tilts with an incorrect setup. So I've now lifted that and that's looking better. My mat isn't quite long enough for Cameron. So I'm going to ask Cameron to place his hands behind his head so that he's actually cupping the weight of his head. And it's entirely up to you, but make sure that your elbows are at an angle so that there isn't tension between your shoulder blades, and you literally are creating a basket in which your head sits. So it's good to just play with that and just make sure that your arms connecting into your shoulder girdle can keep your shoulders down but also support your head, and a softness with your chin. It's not rigid. If your chin is too lifted, then there'll be a lot of effort in the back of the neck as you go to roll up into your curl. If your chin is too tucked, then it's going to feel very, very tight and restricted. So it needs to really just be a balance and a nice ease in the jaw. So I'm going to breathe in, and on the exhale, we tighten the deep abdominals, making sure we don't go into a tilt, because we've just been doing those. We're not going to tilt the pelvis. We unweight the head using the arms. And now there is this softening of the breastbone and the sliding action of the ribs towards the hips. Just float your chin a tiny bit. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then relax, roll back down on an in-breath. So don't think big, don't think of size here. Think of connection and being completely accurate. So Cameron beautifully dropped his shoulder blades down there. And as he softened with the rib cage, it allowed those ribs to concertina towards the legs. It is quite tempting to use your glutes and tuck under to create this feeling of contraction, but allow the sacrum to rest happily into the mat and just softening those legs and the front of the hip. That's very nice. So in breath. And on the out breath, soften. And as you roll the top half of the spine up, there is obviously more connection with the lower spine into the mat. Cameron has an almost explosive energy. He can leap and jump and move with a lot of power. So it's asking a huge amount of his nervous system to do such small, slow, controlled movements. But of course it's good. It's good to practice a really big range, especially for him as a dancer. So we just do one more of those. On the out breath, connection, movement, checking, relaxing anything that doesn't need to work, checking he's he's got his abdominals really well scooped there. It's very nice indeed. And roll that down. So I'm going to ask Cameron to keep his right hand behind his head and to stay in the mood of abdominals. I could just mention that we can put a cushion or a soft floor. It's a bit cheeky, Cameron, sorry about that. Just to help with alignment, particularly when we do oblique curls, because when you're doing a twist with your upper body, it's a bit more tempting to let the lower half of the body come out of alignment. So allowing the palm to be down on your left hand. So now we are going to employ the same technique for rolling up off the mat, but this time it's going to be a small rotation of his upper body so that his right armpit is going to move in the direction of his left knee. So taking a breath. So we're going to inhale first. On the exhale, we put into place the preparation, the deep abdominals. And as he rolls up, he's going to rotate slightly, but it's not so much moving the elbow as thinking of his armpit. And don't try to go too far. If you twist too much, it can upset, actually, the sort of settings in the pelvic lumbar arrangement there. So just feel it as a little bit like wringing out a cloth. It's a squeeze around your midsection. It's a muscular squeeze, not a huge twist, not yanking the bones. So this is just a slightly different way, because sometimes we do these oblique curls reaching the arm, and that can sometimes cause tension in the shoulder. So this is a version that might suit you. I'm going to get Cameron just to do 2 more this side, which I think is roughly 5. You can build up to 10, so if you need to stop the video and carry on, that's fine. So in breath to start, on the exhale, keeping that stability. You can see he's just got a slight wobble on the lower half as he gets tired there. Okay, changing sides. So now it's going to be that feeling of the abdominals moving the ribs towards the legs, but then creating a slight twist. Pelvis is not moving, knees, feet are not moving. They're not rigid, but they're just maintaining their own, looking after their own role, their own duty, whilst the upper body moves. Now, I don't know about Cameron, but I certainly have a side that feels a lot more comfortable. Yeah, is this easier this side? Yeah, thought it was. So when you feel that there is a fluency in the movement to one side, and it feels a little bit sticky or twitchy or hard work to move to the other side, that might be to do with your body's history, to do with injuries, might be something structural. So don't sort of do anything forceful to change that, but observe it and maybe work a few extra repetitions on the side that feels less comfortable so that you can just pay it attention. Well done, Cameron. That completes our work in semi-supine. So Cameron is now lying face down. He's now lying prone, and he's going to rest his forehead on his hands. So we're not working with any equipment here today, but you could use cushions under your armpits to support you if your shoulders are tight. So we need to check that our alignment is correct, so that there is that connection from the sit bone through the back of the knee to the heel. It's interesting, your left leg is slightly longer. Now, what we want to do as a sort of relaxation is just to allow the heels to drop out and the legs to rotate inwards at the hip. So just to get a sensation of where you should be, roll the heels until the pads of your heels are looking up at the ceiling, and then relaxing through the front of the ankles there. So with the legs lightly extended but not tensing the calves or the quads, I'm going to get Cameron to just relax his glutes. Now take a breath in, and on your out breath gently engage your deep abdominals, just a little lift of the deep abdominals. And feel that you squeeze your glutes by pulling the feeling of the muscle pull from the sides round to the sit bones. And then you end up with that feeling that you could hold a 50-pound note between your glute cheeks. Hold it for a moment, let it go. So take a breath in. We'll do 5 times. So second time, a little bit of abdominal. Now, what's tricky here is that normally your glutes, you feel them working because they have a requirement to switch on to get you up from sitting or to help you walk. When you're lying down here, they're only going to do something if you have a conscious decision to do something with those glutes. So this action of making them work from being completely static to switched on, contracted, is very, very good because you really do wake up what are often quite lazy muscles. So on the out breath, now I'm going to get Cameron just to scan his body and check that he hasn't created tension in his upper back or his neck or his legs. It's very tempting to slightly over-tense the knees. So when our glutes are strong, we'll get Cameron to do a couple more. When our glutes are well activated and when they switch on quickly and are ready to work for us, then they really help to keep the knee and foot alignment as well. So glute squeezes, most people can manage. You could even do this on your bed. Now try and do it as a progressive squeeze, not a sudden jerky action. So activate from the side, from the deep hip, round to the sit bones, and then feel that you increase that squeeze if you were holding a 50p piece between your butt cheeks. So we are not altering the pelvis deliberately, we are not tucking the pelvis under, but what you may find is that it does create that little lift in the triangle on the front of the pelvis. So now I'm going to get Cameron to flex his right toes, maintain that slight feeling in the glutes. And to go from this flex of the toes, we're just going to breathe comfortably here, so just keep breathing. It's very, very gentle, so we're just going to do it on Cameron's own breathing here. Now, what I want you to do is to feel that you push into my thumb and extend your knee, but instead of feeling that you're pushing the back of your knee to the ceiling, I want you to feel that you're, Now feel a connection with your glute and your underlung and the glute crease. Good. Now, maintain that and point your foot. So take your toes off the floor and point your toes. Don't necessarily go higher though. That's it. So now flex your toes again. Put your toes back down. Put your knee back down. That's it. And then uncurl your foot. So now uncurl your foot. Sorry, that's it. So we're going to bend the toes. We're going to do the heel push. That's good. Point the toes. Point the toes. Just so from there, keep your leg where it is, but now point it. There you go. You've got it. Yeah. I haven't pre-prepared. I'm literally teaching Cameron as we work. When he's doing really well, that's it. And then relax. And then uncurl your toes. That's good. So you literally reverse everything. Do that again. Toes. Now this is really good. This is really good for Cameron's organisation because we're looking at this lower limb chain. We're looking at his connection between his hip, his knee and his foot. I mean, he's strong and I'm not being critical at all, but I know that this is something in order for his knees to stay strong, that he needs to work in his glutes and also to work what's going on through his foot. That's getting better. Now just watch because it was slightly going on. That's it. And when you are lengthening here, although you are pointing your toes, you know you said about the back of your heel. So what I want you to do is keep reaching your heel into my thumb. That's it. Now it's changed it. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
That's it. And down. That's it. Good. Otherwise you point by pinching here. Go to the other foot. That's it. Weaker leg. So this one wanted to swing the heel out. That's it. Yeah, you put your knee down and then curl the toes. So curl the toes. what you do when you're walking, that push off the back foot, and helps us to feel how the energy for our movement can often be enhanced by sensing that it's the energy on the back of the body that propels us forward rather than the feeling of being pulled from the front. This is nice, that's good. That's it, you've got it. Now, I've been concentrating on alignment there. You could have a cushion under your tummy if you find that your lower back feels a little bit unsupported. I think Cameron is managing this, but the abdominals need to stay lifted. It is the glutes that is responsible there for holding the leg raised. We don't want to feel it. You don't feel it in your back?
No.
Yep, you're okay. That was good. Excellent. Thank you, Alexa. So interestingly, Cameron and I just had a moment to reflect on that previous exercise and its particular value for Cameron. And he mentioned that some of these exercises, they're not physically difficult for him, because obviously he is strong, athletic, but he said organisationally, they are really challenging to organise a specific sequence of movement, but most particularly when it's happening behind you and you can't watch it. Cameron is very visual, so am I, so we find that quite hard to do. So even though it can feel a bit tedious, some of these exercises, if they feel a little bit tedious to do, they probably are ones that you need to do and to practice until they become more melodic for you when you put it all together. So Cameron is now lying prone on his tummy. Forehead is just sort of resting on the floor. Now, you should find that because you have worked systematically with the glutes, with the legs, that alignment, I'm just going to check Cameron there, is pretty good. So now the arrow, we're working the back of the body mainly with the muscles of the upper back. So very postural, but I'm including here a little extra challenge with a little bit of rotation. It's just a little bit harder to do. So we're going to take a breath in. On an out breath, the arms float up so that they're level with your hips, activating the lats and the muscles of the upper body there. On an in-breath, you float your chest off the floor without gripping too hard with your glutes. Keep your thumbs a little closer to your legs. On an out-breath, slide your shoulder blades and fingers further down towards your heels, but don't let your arms drop. Keep your arms up a bit more. Lovely. Now, on an in-breath, take your right arm round to arabesque line and turn your palms in to face the body line, so the back hand turns to face. Good. On your next out-breath, you're going to rotate towards the camera. And it's a bit like swimming. So lovely rotation, keeping the pelvis and legs still. Beautiful. Come back on the in-breath. Rotate the arm back round to your basic arrow position and relax to the floor. Inhale. Exhale. Float the arms. Inhale, float the chest, not too high, want to look like an arrow, not a boomerang, that's it. Exhale, slide your shoulder blades and your fingers more, don't come too high, don't come too high. In-breath, left arm, turn the palms to face the body. And on the exhale, rotate without tensing the arms, keep them nice and soft. Work the torso, work all those interior muscles, lovely. Come back, rotate round, and inhale to lower. Once more each side. Exhale, arms up. I'm just going to lengthen. Yes, that's better connection. Get his fingers there. And lift. Good. Shoulders down. Lovely. And then rotate. Don't come too high because you're then using your lower back. I probably would put Cameron with a pillow under his abdomen there, just because he's very, very strong with his lower back, so he does tend to kind of be bending a little bit too much there. As I've said to you before, we all look and feel different doing these exercises, but do listen to the commentary, because even if Cameron's body is manifesting something slightly different, my commentary will give you the details. So the feeling is very much, you are floating off the floor. It's quite linear. That's it. Lovely. Well done, Cameron. Sit back on your heels and rest your back. That's it. It's good. So, having worked with the legs, with the lower body, and worked with the trunk, we're going to take a original mat work exercise, the Criss-Cross. So I'm going to ask Cameron to bring his knees up into tabletop position one at a time. That's it. And then going through the process of setting up for this. Hang on, he's rushing away. Take a breath in, on the out breath, lift your upper body up towards the ceiling. It's a little lift. Now, on the exhale, he's going to extend his left leg and he's going to keep his right knee pretty much in place. He's going to try and lift to bring, that's it, his left armpit to his right knee and change. Good. Now, what happens is when you're thinking about the connection between armpit and knee, you can sometimes forget what's going on. So what did we do earlier? We worked those quads in our sitting practice there. So we are extending the knee and we're making sure that we use the inner thighs and keep that line. Lovely, that's it. So the feeling is of extending out as you make a little twist. So Cameron is powerful, he's strong, so he's getting a lot of movement there. You may not get your elbow towards your knee, it doesn't matter. I'm going to ask him to reduce the size of it just a little bit, just that's it. And I want him to just stretch through that leg. Send that energy out a bit more so that if I were watching this, if I were watching you perform this on a stage, I want to be aware of this energy bursting out from all corners, not just going into that centre. Well done, Cameron. So there you have it, nice crisscross. Brilliant. So now an exercise that's going to be, again, very, very good for Cameron. It's going to work those deep hip muscles. Very good for Cameron because it's a lot of organisation. But also for us, it's this ability to create enough stability to hold the body in a nice, safe and stable position while we make movement with the legs. So it's stability and mobility. So kind of it's that sort of coherent whole. So top arm lengthened, palm firmly on the floor, and the hand that's in front of you just a bit lower towards your belly button. That's it. His heels are in line with his spine. Yeah, you were fine. That was fine. Don't go too far back. And the basis of this is your shell exercise. So on an out breath, I'm going to get him to lift his belly button up and in towards the spine, towards the back of the room. And I want him to lift his feet slightly off the floor now, but keep the knees down. That's it. So on our next out breath, we're going to breathe in. On our next out breath, he's going to squeeze and he's going to feel a sensation around both sit bones, not just the top one. And he's going to open the top knee. But what we're making sure that we're doing is making the movement happen right inside the joint, not too much down the leg. So close on an in-breath. So of course we can do this with the shins on the floor. This is just a development exercise, so it's just adding a little more challenge of the balance of holding both legs. So the bottom knee is supported, the bottom thigh is supported on the floor. So nice straight back. You could have gone back to the wall for this, but in a moment it's going to do something else, and the wall would definitely be a little bit of a difficulty for the next part of the movement. So when he's on 5, we're going to get him to stay in his current posture. So now, Cameron, holding that left hip nice and strong. We're going to do 10 times little extensions, and it's a bit like leapfrog. You're going to leap, so you're going to go stretch. Now reach your top leg slightly back and your bottom leg slightly forward. Now as you come back, you've got to work in here, or that knee will drop. So you leap over your lily pad and you come back onto your leaf. That's it, and you stretch. Stretch. Keep maintaining that feeling of rotation. Good, don't let your feet go too far behind you. And stretch. And open the knee. And stretch. So you're going to work your glute to bring it back into your shoulder. A little bit more open, Nice stretch. Really pull up through those knees. Stretch as you open the knee more. Good. Your feet are just slightly too far behind you. Move forward. That's it. Open your knee more. That's it. Yeah. You work quite back into the full shell position. Yes. So Cameron hasn't done, well, he's done a lot of movement. He probably has done things that are very similar, but he hasn't done specifically this. I'm literally throwing things at him today. And that's quite good because, I don't want you to see the perfect model. I want you to see how the process works. Well done. Other side. So feet just slightly forward. That's it. Okay. So, working those tummy muscles, feet just lifted slightly off the ground. That's it. And then we're working in here. So I do want Cameron to make sure that he thinks about activating the muscle he wants to use before it goes into work, because otherwise you may have a default mechanism that your body likes to use. And the whole idea with this is almost that we can reprogram any faulty patterning. So if we always do things in a certain way, that's perhaps not the most efficient way, we can reprogram it. So stretch and then come back. Knee to the floor, knee to the ceiling. That's it. Get your nice open frogs. Now pull up through your knees. Really reach through the feet. Good. That's it.
Easier on this side.
Easier that side. Yeah. Don't let your top knee bend though, as your leg reaches. And then what you said about things behind you, you're maybe less aware of. Good. It's nice. And we need to just maintain the posture here. Lots of abdominals. So pulling up the knee. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice. Now, I'm just going to remind Cameron to keep his waist lifted out of the floor, to keep the shoulder blades setting. Keep smiling for you on camera there. And stretch. And in. Well done. Well done. Excellent. So utilising those deep hip rotators there. Well done, Karen. So I've been ending my practices with movements that incorporate the skills you learn through all of the basic work, all of the foundation work, but using movements that may have some value for your everyday life. So one of the things that we talk about is if you do have that misfortune to face plant the floor and you do fall, and let's say, for argument's sake, that you're completely uninjured because your beautiful Pilates bodies have so much resilience, but you're there, it's a bit embarrassing. How do you get yourself up off the floor? And I think we make the mistake of trying to get our head up, and that's often not the most comfortable and efficient way of getting up from the floor. So you have done this move with me in class. I'm going to get Cameron to demonstrate how we can go from lying prone, so he hasn't fallen over, but let's say he had, and by using his legs and that feeling of rotating, pushing on the hands, he can come up in a really sort of easy cat-like way, and I'm taking him into a nice stretch there. So we've worked quite hard with the whole body in the two practices we have filmed today. That was a nice click from your spine. So relaxing the ankles, nice little stretch up there. So I've taken Cameron off his mat because sometimes the mat is more of a hindrance, and it just is easier for him to find that flow. And of course we've also done other movements going from the side saddle sitting down to the floor in other ways, but this is how to go from lying to sitting. And after Cameron has done it just 2 more times, on his last time I'm going to get him to just show me how we can come to kneeling and standing. So 1 more time, Cameron, come back down to the floor and rolling over. So you'll notice keeping those knees bent was the answer to not feeling. So he just moves into knee, but I want you to go back into your side sit like that there. So here he is. So I know the floor is a little bit hard, but maybe you've got yourself up now to sitting and you're looking all very elegant and you've got your composure back, but how do you get up to standing? So I'm going to get Cameron to roll onto all fours. So just come onto all fours. So now what I would like you to do, Cameron, is to put your right hand behind your back and to bring your right foot forward. Now curl your toes under on the back. Now it's tempting to try and stand up forwards onto your front leg, but that would be a lot of strain on your knees. So let your head bow down. Now let your bum go up to the ceiling and push up onto your toes. And now you've got a bit of stability. You can either go forwards or backwards, whatever feels comfortable for you. Perfect. Perfectly demonstrated by my nice fit model here. So thank you everybody. That was a filming sequence. We filmed today a little seated practice which we may put up separately, or you could join it onto the mat work there. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's very poignant for me because I have to say goodbye to Cameron. He's going back down to Hereford. Please cross everything that the company can get back in action. Things do seem to be moving. So I hope that my loss is Two-Faced Dance Company's gain, and that he can get back to work doing what he is so passionate about. So this has been an absolute treat for me, and whilst I can't be on the mats with you, this has been rather lovely. So take care everybody, stay safe, and see you soon.